think my biggest stress in early COVID was sourcing equipment. I worked quite closely with a brilliant medical engineer who was just fab. She was just on it and she was really innovative, and sort of, think outside the box, and she ended up buying a load of old monitors from an auction site and kind of piecing the bits together to make stuff that would function. We just didn't have enough equipment for the patients we were being asked to prepare for. It was quickly quite apparent that actually it was people that we were short of, because it doesn't matter how many ventilators you have, you can't look after a ventilated patient without a properly trained person. So there was all this stuff, about the ventilator race, which drove me up the wall, actually. And we even, a couple of us, worked together to try and figure out how we could make one ventilator take 2 patients. And we came up with a system and different valves and all sorts of things so we could vary the pressure to each patient. And it probably would have worked, actually. But then we were like, this is ridiculous. If we're ever in a position that we don't have enough ventilators, we're just going to have to make really difficult decisions about who gets on them. Because it's going to be far too dangerous for 2 patients sharing one ventilator than providing proper care to one patient, which would give one person a fighting chance. We brought together everything we had. We had all our intensive care ventilators. So before the pandemic, the ICU was set up to care for, I think, a maximum of 8 ventilated patients. But we managed to scrape together enough equipment to look after a maximum of, I think, 32. We managed to get 35, and they were mostly anaesthetic machines that we used in theatre. And we had to make sure that we had enough to maintain emergency theatres, trauma theatres and obstetric theatres. And we'd only just bought new anaesthetic machines, and unfortunately we had just sold our old ones to the auctioneers. We phoned the auctioneers, have you still got our machines? Can we have them back? But they'd sold them. We retained 2 old ones that we were going to use for training, so we got those back, got the engineers to service them and put them back into circulation as well, just in case, using absolutely everything. And I think the most ventilated patients we had in at any one time was 27. So we didn't go above, but we did go very close.
You hear people and their conspiracy theories, everything like that.
I remember being on COVID ICU and there was some anti-mask protests going on in town, and we were there in the middle of all these ventilating patients, and we were just thinking, what are we doing?
I think after that, families were getting frustrated because they couldn't come in, and there was a very long period of time on national news. Why can't they come in? The debate about care homes and everything, which I get, but I felt we needed to fight for our families who needed to be able to come in and be with their loved ones when they were dying. It took too much away from them.
The other weird thing that I experienced was going to supermarkets and getting angry with the general public for disregarding masks and rules and social distancing and all that kind of thing, because I was seeing the impact of that at my workplace. So I'd go to the supermarket and watch people behaving stupidly and have to bite my tongue and not say anything.
So we were just chasing our tails, trying to get equipment where there wasn't any. And a lot of it, we think, was taken by the Nightingale hospitals, who suddenly said, oh, we're starting a new hospital, we need all this kit. And we were going, yeah, but we're here and we've actually got patients.
I'm really angry about it. I mean, it's just the PPE saga that was just an embarrassment. I mean, there should have been a central supply. They should have been prepared better. I remember watching a programme on the BBC probably 12 months before the pandemic, which actually mapped out from a patient zero how it would impact a community. So all of that information was there, and they just hadn't planned. They should have locked down flights from China sooner, or all international flights, you know. We should have locked down sooner. No doubt about it, lives would have been saved.
If you were to ask me what was the biggest thing, the best thing we ever did in COVID, we set up Letter to a Loved One, which is an email that we still have today, still on my inbox, where our families could send letters in, photographs or anything, so we would give them to the patient so they'd got them. We agreed we wouldn't be responding to anything because that would be more than a full-time job, but we would take those pictures and all the families that had letters if a person dies, or if they went home because they didn't all die. Those letters went back with them so the families were reassured we'd done it. I think one of the hardest days was when we had a letter and it was from somebody that I personally knew. They didn't know who they'd sent it to, but I knew it was one of my daughter's friends' granddads. And I think by the time we realised that if you were on a ventilator, you knew they didn't come off it. You knew they usually died. So I think we all knew that, and obviously families had to be told that the chances are that this will happen. And I remember seeing the letter, and I remember the team running up because we knew he was going on a ventilator, and we knew that she wanted it reading before. So we worked with the critical care staff, and we always made sure that we got those letters up there. My team were run ragged. We were reading them out, or we would give them to the nurse looking after them. So we would sit in there, gowned up, and read the letter. Sometimes we didn't make it. The patient had died. But we always made sure that we went to the mortuary and read that letter to the deceased.